Welcome back to the Interact Post. Today, Article 7 will include us going over and discussing leaks related to Genshin. Once again, like every other Interact Post, we do want to say that all of the info we have found you can find yourself. We are not beta testers and have no inside information. We will be using various different sources that everyone has access to. Now with all that out of the way, onto the video. The first thing we're going to be looking at is the version 4.3 special program livestream, which we believe to be around the 15th. Now, looking back at the last 4.2 livestream, when that was the 2nd of November, and so adding 6 weeks to really from that time period, or the 3rd, I believe, of November, it now seems like it's going to be the 15th of December, adding 6 weeks to that, and that's kind of how we got there. Now looking at the actual time that 4.3 is going to drop, it seems like the 19th or the 20th, wherever you're going to be living, is that time period of when it is going to drop, either Tuesday night on the 19th or sometime during Wednesday. And that is going to be actually the start of 4.3 in the next 6 weeks of the time span for 4.3. Now, that's going to be the live stream, once again, is on the 15th, and then the 19th or the 20th is when the actual banners are going to drop. Now looking at the banners that are actually on 4.3, a lot has changed over actually a very long time as the Interact posts that we've been making have been changing. But Rift, what are the banners that we kind of think are almost for sure going to be there?
So as we are getting nearer and nearer to 4.3, a lot of banner changes, as you guys might know, have been kind of going around, especially in the leaks forums on Twitter, in HoYoLab and whatever else. But at this point, it is starting to set in stone what we're actually going to see in the first half. And that first half is looking most likely to be Navia alongside Ayaka. And so that is very exciting. I know a lot of people who want a cryo DPS. Ayaka is a very, very great form of that for you, especially maybe you missed out on Risley as a new player. This is definitely a great character to go after as a cryo DPS. And obviously Navia being the new character this version, that's definitely going to be very exciting. And also, I think it's important to point out, we haven't gotten a Geo character, 4-star or 5-star, since Yunjin. That's a very long time. We didn't get a Geo character in all of Sumeru. So I think this is just a big deal, and there's a lot of hype behind Navia, and really a lot of people just hoping to see how well she will play out. That will be the first half. Again, that's Navia and Ayaka. The second half of 4.3 looks like it's going to be Raiden and Yoimiya. So again, we're not going to be seeing Ito or Albedo most likely. What we're seeing right now is Raiden and Yoimiya. And I think this actually kind of, is coincidentally coinciding with the idea of Overload getting a buff with the addition of Chevreuse to the game. And also speaking of Chevreuse, she may be on the second half with Raiden and Yoimiya. And I think that just pairs nicely because those are both, that's an Electro and a Pyro character. And Chevreuse is obviously going to help both of those characters out tremendously. But moving on from the 4.3 banner speculations, we now move on to some of the new artifacts that we're going to be getting in 4.3. Now, we have talked about this before in previous Interact posts and maybe some other videos out there, but we've actually got a little bit more stable information once again on just what these are going to look like. So the first set, Vixen, what can you tell me about this set?
Looking at the 2-piece, it gives a healing bonus of 15%, like 2 of the other healing bonus sets that we already have in the game. Now looking at the 4-piece, it seems that when you're actually going to be healing a character, you're going to get a certain effect, and then when that effect for 10 seconds goes on, once that 10-second duration ends, you're going to be getting another effect, which then has the active character hitting an opponent with a normal attack, charge attack, plunging attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst. That damage will be increased by 3% of the total healing amount that the previous effect had done. So basically, you're going to be doing a bunch of healing, and then after, it's going to have a certain duration that's going to happen. When that duration's over, it's going to give a huge damage buff, and at this point, it's going to kind of help characters, or the active character on the field, to do a lot more damage, which is why it's going to be great possibly for characters like Baiju that like to stay off field and do healing, as well as small bursts of healing, so that the effect can maybe happen, over a long period of time as well, and maybe not necessarily stack on each other, but happen one after the other type thing. So I think it's a pretty good set to look at.
Yeah, it kind of just makes me think of Ocean Hued Clam a little bit, in the sense that it takes that healing, records it, and then turns it into further damage. And so Ocean Hued Clam doing the same thing. I feel like this set, Song of Days Past, is like an off-field version of it, because Ocean Hued Clam is kind of the idea where when you put that on Kokomi, you're running Kokomi as an on-fielder. And I do think Ocean Hued Clam can still work off-field. I believe it does say that in its 4-piece itself. But I think with this new set, once again, is this is going to have a lot of versatility with using on a lot of different off-field healers. Like you mentioned, Baiju, there's going to be a lot of other characters you can just go ahead and throw that on and then cause your other DPS units to just deal more damage based on those other units healing. So I think that's kind of cool to look at. But looking at the other set, this other new set that we're going to be getting in 4.3 is called Nighttime Whispers in the Echoing Woods. Now this set has a 2-piece of 18% attack, like a lot of sets we already have in the game. So right off the bat, I already think this set's going to have a lot of resin efficiency with whatever domain it's associated with, just because those 2-piece attack percent pieces can be used on a lot of different characters. Whenever, especially if you're not going for certain 4-piece effects, or maybe you're just playing more casually, or you just have really good, substat rolls on these artifacts, you can still use them for their 2-piece. And so, and once again, being an attack percent, I think this artifact is going to have a lot of good resin efficiency behind it. Looking at the 4-piece, it states that after using an elemental skill, you will gain a 16% geo damage bonus for 10 seconds. And also, while under a shield granted by the crystallize reaction, the above effect of 16% geo damage bonus will be increased by 150%. And additionally, this increase will disappear 1 second after the shield from the crystallize reaction is lost. So looking at this 4-piece, it's really capitalizing on the crystallize effect. So this obviously is looking to be like Navia's, personal artifact set.
I totally agree. I think it is going to be a great actual artifact for Navia, but I also think that this could obviously look at some other characters that could use it just because of maybe making the crystallize reaction a little bit more useful in the game. Characters like Ito that are on field and have an infusion with his burst, I believe. Once you use an elemental skill, you get that damage bonus, but never mind that, you also get this previous damage bonus, increased a lot. So, using your Ushi with Ito, first and foremost, and then getting, a reaction or necessarily from that or from the burst or whatever just afterwards for that 10-second period duration of having that geo damage bonus, it seems like that could help Ito as well, and maybe some other characters. I'm not really necessarily sure who you could really go that for, and I think that'll change as maybe more geo characters maybe come out. But those are the two big characters I think that are going to be using this set.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. It could just be an option for people who do use Ito. Maybe they don't want to go and do Husk of Opulent Dreams because it may just not be as resin efficient for them. This set, or whatever domain, maybe the other artifact that's associated with this set, is just going to be a little bit more resin efficient, especially for casual players, new players. Again, it's a 2-piece attack percent set, so that helps a lot of other characters already, whereas 2-piece Husk is defense percent, which doesn't really help too many. I know it just helps people like Goro, Yunjin, and a few others, whereas attack percent just helps many, many more. So that is just something I think, to keep in mind, where if you, especially you're just playing the game casually, you just don't want to burn all your resin on all these different domains.
Looking at the next leak, it seems like we're going to be having some sort of update for 4.3 and actually specifically looking at domains. Now, this had come out a little while ago, and I'm really excited for this. It makes the game a little bit, it's very quality of life. And basically what's going to happen is if you go and claim in a domain, let's say you're doing Husk of Opulent Dreams, and you go and claim at the tree, if you decide to redo the domain or re-challenge again, and just they've already done that to make things a little bit quicker so you don't have to get kicked out and go back in, you can challenge again. But instead of being spawned all the way back at the beginning like you normally would, it seems like we'll actually be respawning once you hit that challenge again button. You're going to be respawning back at that huge key where you can just immediately press start and go through the rotation again. It doesn't necessarily change too many things, but it does maybe just save a little bit of time. It's 5 to 10 seconds, but when you're doing a domain, 5, 10, 20 times or whatever with, frauders and whatnot, then, it can start to add up a lot of time. So I think that'll be nice to have at least in the future for this update.
Oh yeah, I'm totally excited for that as well. And maybe, who knows, we might even get some more faster times on domain clears, because whenever you get a domain clear, it shows you the time at the bottom. It's actually including you walking up the steps to even start the challenge. So maybe there'll be some new world records for domain clears. I know that's not that crazy, but it is something cool to think about that I kind of just thought of. But the last thing we're going to be looking at today as our last little thing is another little feature in 4.3. Again, another kind of quality of life thing. But this is the ability to enhance our artifacts in a much more efficient and quicker way. Previously, before this update goes live, if we do get this, you really just have to fill in the slots to upgrade the artifacts, and you're kind of upgrading your artifacts kind of one level at a time, just because you have to re-auto add, and then you level it up. It goes up by one level from like 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 if it doubles, whatever happens. Then you got to do it again, and then you auto add again and again until you've leveled your artifact where you want it to be. But now we're gonna have that ability to kind of just pick which level we want it to automatically upgrade to. So say you have a level 0 artifact, this seems like we'll be able to set it to auto level to level 16 because you want to see all the stats it gives. You can just set that. It'll throw in, if you have enough 3 and 4 star artifacts, it'll just throw all of them in, maybe at a set priority that you can pick, and it will just go all the way from 0 to 16 on its own. So that again just saves a little bit more time as a quality of life upgrade to the game.
I know something else they've actually thrown in as well is the dispatch system. So when you're actually doing dispatching characters for expeditions, that's another added thing they've been adding, where you can just kind of like, once again, Star Rail does, is you can just resend everybody out that's already out. You can just basically resend all of them instead of collecting every single person's thing and then sending them out again. It seems like it'll be 1 or 2 buttons to just immediately click in and out. So I think that's a pretty good idea to just kind of get across some really good quality of life leaks or speculations that we could be getting in 4.3. Nothing's still set in stone. We still do have 2 weeks and almost 2 weeks until everything kind of wraps up in 4.2. So besides that, we don't really have too much else to bring. So I think at this point, we'll see you guys in the next one.